What's up, everybody? It's Clint from the DieHardMMA Podcast, and this is your total takedown for UFC Vegas 30. We're talking how long will these fights last, overs, unders, you know the drill. You've seen this show before. Do me a favor, smash that like button, subscribe, hit our Pub Sports Radio if you have not already. Feel free to hit me up at DieHardMMA Pod if you have any other questions or you want to discuss the fights further. And of course, jump in that comment section below. Let me know what your favorite total for UFC Vegas 30 is. Let's crack right on into this thing. First fight of the night, we've got Yancy Medeiros taking on Damir Hadzovic. Now, most of you know my guest, Gianni the Greek Gambler, is on Damir Hadzovic. He said it's one of his favorite plays on this entire card, and I kind of understand, but I disagree just a little bit. At the same time, what we know is both these guys have potent offensive ability, and both of them have questionable defensive ability. We've seen them both finish and be finished. So what I did, I actually went ahead and placed this bet myself. I'm on the under 2.5 here. You can get it between plus 120 and between plus 115 and plus 130, depending on where you're at in the market. I think getting a plus number on this under here is fantastic. Damir Hadzovic is going to get in the face of Yancy Medeiros. Yancy's going to have the reach advantage. I think he's got more crisp, cleaner striking, and we've seen that be a problem for Damir. But Damir is going to also push the issue, and he hits a hell of a lot harder. So with both these guys having some defensive issues, some potential chin issues, both them having plenty of offensive output, I definitely see this lending towards that under. Both guys contribute. Let's play the under, especially getting a plus line. Next up, we've got Charles Rosa taking on Justin the Guitar Hero Janes. And we've got a total here set once again at 2.5. The over is plus 105. The under is plus 125. And I'm sorry, minus 125. So we got a slight chalk here to the under 2.5. And I totally agree with that. We all know Justin Janes is a guy that comes out guns blazing first round, tries to take your head off, capable of finishing anybody in that very first round. Now, he's been taking short notice fights up a weight class since he got into the UFC. This is his first time being in the right weight class with a full training camp, and I think that's going to pay dividends here in this spot. Charles Rosa, a guy that's not really known for getting finished. It's possible, but he also has been pretty durable. They call him Boston Strong for a reason. That's the only thing that kind of sets me off of playing this under. That's the only thing that kind of keeps me in that, maybe we don't want to pull that trigger. Charles Rosa's got a slick offensive submission game. We know Justin Janes tends to slow down as the fight goes on. That's fighting bigger men up at 155, down at 145, where he's a bit more comfortable. I wonder if maybe he's going to have a more improved gas tank. One more thing we just found out today. Justin Janes came out and said that he's putting his entire fight purse, as well as his coaches, are putting their entire income from this fight on him as an underdog in this spot. So, y'all know me, I'm a degenerate, and that's the kind of thing that I love to see. I mean, his back is against the wall. He's on an 0-3 skid. He needs a win. He's fighting an opponent that he's earned his UFC roster, but he's 500 in the organization. This is a fight that he can potentially win. This is an opponent that he can potentially crack and put away. So I'm kind of tempted to roll the dice with Justin Janes just because of that storyline there. The under 2.5 makes some sense because that's more often than not the way that he's going to finish the fight. And then if he doesn't get the fight done early, he probably gives up some kind of a submission later on when he's too tired to defend the takedowns and can't keep this thing standing when Charles Rosa wants to get it to the mat. So the under 2.5 is the way that I would be looking here in this spot. Not sure that I'm actually going to bet this one, except maybe sprinkling on that Justin Janes side for the degenerate gamble. Next up, we got a women's bantamweight fight. Julia Vila taking on Julia Stoliarenko. This is one that I need to watch the weigh-ins for because we had that bad issue at the weigh-ins with Julia Stoliarenko last time around. You've got to assume that she's going to work super hard, make sure this cut goes super clean, but you never know with these types of situations. Both high-powered offensive women. Julia Stoliarenko, really high-level ground game, likes to use that off of her back, snatch arms off of people, struggles with the wrestling, can't quite get it there when she wants to. Julia Avila, the raging Panda, really nice, heavy top game offensive BJJ from the top position, sharp hands, heavy hands, fast, athletic, hits hard, strong. So with the both of them having the type of offensive tools that we like to see, I would be looking at this under as well. The only problem is we're not getting that great of a number. Women's MMA, more often than not, they go over. We've talked about that. We try to abuse that and go under when we get the opportunity. Here we've got a plus 135, plus 125 on the under 2.5. You'd think it would give us a little bit more than that, but the way these two women fight, the bookies are on to us. They know what's going on here. I still would look under 2.5 if I was going to play the total on this one, but Julia Avila could just stay safe. She could keep this thing standing, pick her opponent apart, and if Stoliarenko is tough if she pulls guard, if she does the butt scoot thing where she tries to get her to engage on the mat with her, that kind of thing, it could extend this fight. It could stretch out and get to the judges' scorecards, but I'm more seeing a finish here, either TKO from Avila or a submission from Stoliarenko. Again, I'd be looking under. I think there's going to be a lot of violence opportunities on this particular card. Speaking of violence, light heavyweight fight coming up next. Marcin Prachnio taking on Ike Villanueva. And this is a spot where, holy cow, what are we doing? Dumpster fire opportunity. Total here set at 1.5. Over 1.5 is minus 170. Under 1.5 is plus 150. Marcin Prachnio 0-3 in the UFC before his last win over Khalil Roundtree. 3 first-round knockout losses. Now, he looked much improved against Khalil, but Khalil also looked the worst we've seen him in a long, long time. Ike Villanueva, really heavy hands, crisp boxing. That's really his mainstay. That's his weapon. That's his opportunity. He walks people down, doesn't care what you hit him with. You need to hit him with a freaking chair to get him out of there. Only the heavyweights have been able to knock this guy out, and then he just puts it on you as soon as he gets into boxing range. The way these two guys fight, it's kill or be killed for both of them. Neither of them are all that defensively sound. They both have got some serious offensive output. This is an under if I've ever seen one. That under 1.5 at plus 150, I don't mind it whatsoever, but if you can get the alternate of under 2.5 at about minus 125, I feel like that's the sweet spot. You're paying just a little bit of chalk, and you get that full extra round involved there, enough for these two guys to get tired, one of them to get worn down, make a mistake. Again, I think violence is going to rule the day here on that one. That's a fight that I expect someone to go to sleep in, and I kind of feel like it's a dog or pass spot personally. That's just me. Featherweight fight coming up next. Warley Alves taking on Jeremiah Wells. Now, we know Warley Alves. We know he's a front runner. We know he's a high-powered offensive type of fighter. He put away Munir Lazez, which is not an easy thing to do in the very first round of their fight with a big, big body kick last time out. Jeremiah Wells coming in here on short notice. He's a bit older. He's not UFC battle-tested. He's only got about 10 fights worth of experience. So really questionable on Jeremiah Wells. We don't know a whole lot about him. Given that, we got to side with Warley Alves, and we know that offensive output. Jeremiah Wells seems to be a finisher himself, but again, on the regional scene against very low-level competition, we know nothing about this guy. The total here is set at 1.5. Over is minus 135. Under is plus 115. I feel like the under makes some sense because Warley Alves is either going to blast through this guy and welcome him very rudely to the UFC, or he's going to try to do that, and then he's going to end up putting himself in a bad spot because he overcorrected or he just didn't respect Jeremiah Wells coming into the UFC. I'm not sure I want to touch this one, though, especially not before tomorrow. We really need to see the weigh-ins on Friday because Warley Alves is a tale of two fighters. This is a guy that either comes in motivated, in shape, killer, and then destroys people, or he phones it in. If he has a tough weight cut, he, I believe, is a little bit mentally weak. I know that's easy to say from me from my couch here just talking to you guys on the internet, so I don't mean to be disrespectful. But when it comes to the fighters, if he faces adversity, he crumbles, and we've seen that before. So again, even though we're talking totals and we're not talking sides, I really don't want to trust this guy with my money. I have no idea what he's going to do, and I have no idea what Jeremiah Wells brings to the table in counter. He took this fight on short notice, so he's got to think he's got a path to victory here. This could be a one-round banger. I lean to the under 1.5. But again, I'd caution you putting your money on this particular fight. Welterweight matchup, Shavkat Rakhmonov taking on Michel Tractor Prazeres. This is a tale of two fighters. Shavkat Rakhmonov is an absolute monster, offensive striker, very fun to watch, tight squeeze, nasty ground game. Michel Prazeres, high-level wrestler, high-level BJJ black belt. He's looking for the choke, looking for the submission. Lands big bombs on his way in to close the range. Not always a finisher, especially later in his career. He's been more of a grinder. Tries to kind of grind people out over 15 minutes. If the finish presents itself, then great. If not, he's just trying to hang in there and get to the judges' scorecards. That counter there makes this thing hard from a totals perspective. Totals 2.5. Over is plus 100. Under is minus 120. Shavkat Rakhmonov obviously can finish just about anybody. I like this kid. I like what I've seen from him. He's slick. I think we're going to see a lot from him in the future. Michel Prazeres, he's getting older. He's getting up there in age, getting close to that magic bullet number 40, and he has got some offensive capability. We've seen him slow down in his last couple fights. He's coming off a couple of a decent layoff here from the COVID time. He hasn't fought during any of that, so we really don't know what version of Tractor we're going to see on Saturday. I would lean to the under. Michel's last fight, he got tired after the first round of grappling, really kind of shelled up after that, and it was kind of easy pickings. after that point. So if Shavkat Rakhmonov can make this guy work, if he can defend the takedown, keep this thing standing, and stretch it into the second or the third round, he can probably finish Michel, even though that's a tall order later on in this fight. But if Preux is able to do what he wants to do, this is going to be a 15-minute grind fest. This is going to be up against the cage. It's going to be slow. It's going to be on the back. It's going to be on the ground. And because of that, it could also easily squeak over. This is another one that I kind of just want to have a watch and see approach. I would lean towards that under -120. Looking at the offense of Rakhmonov, I'm not expecting Preux to be able to finish this kid. But he does have the offensive capability. We've seen him do it before, so I don't want to completely count it out. I'm looking under rather than over on this one. Again, though, just be careful. Be careful. Light heavyweight fight, Kennedy Nzechukwu taking on Danilo Marques. Is it Nzechukwu? Nzechukwu. I think it's Nzechukwu. My bad. I've reverted there to my old pronunciation. I always got to listen to John Anik when he comes on. He tells us how to say these things right. So Kennedy taking on Danilo Marques. Total here set at 2.5. Over 2.5 is +110. Under 2.5, -130. I'm, again, looking at violence on this one, right? Because we've got Danilo Marques, who's a decent level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner, sells out for that takedown, MMA grappling, looks to control people. The only problem is he can backpack people. He can grind things out, get on top of people, be positionally sound, and just let that clock tick away. Kennedy is a guy that we've seen go 15 minutes. We've seen him be tactical. We've seen him pick his shots, has no problem grinding out the clock. But he's a big dude, and he hits freaking hard, and he TKOs people as well. So both these guys are kind of coin flippy. Both of them can go over. Both of them can finish. We have seen Kennedy submitted before. His one lone loss was by submission to Paul Craig. And Danilo Marques, even though he's done well in the UFC so far, we've seen some gas tank issues, and he's only fought basically the bottom of the barrel, the two worst UFC fighters that they had to offer him. So, again, I'm kind of leaning under here. I think that Marques is going to struggle to get the takedowns. I think Kennedy's going to be able to light him up once he does have an opportunity to do so. And if Marques is able to have success with the grappling, if he is able to get on top of Kennedy, I think Kennedy will expose his back. We've seen him roll and make some mistakes trying to get up to his feet in desperation. There's going to be an opportunity for Marques to get a rear naked choke, sink the hooks in, that kind of a thing. Again, I'm looking violence. I would say the under on this one. We move over to the main card. We've got a lightweight fight between Renato, Moicano, and Herbert. This is another spot that I've already locked in a bet on myself. We have the total here set at 2.5. Over is +110, +115, under -145, -150, depending on where you are shopping. Under 2.5, folks. I laid 3 units to win 2 on this under 2.5 at -150. Renato Moicano is a guy that's absolutely high-level skilled everywhere. Problem is, he's run afoul of some of the best strikers at 145 and 155, and he's paid for that. He's got a bit of a chin issue. That durability is a massive concern, but he's got a high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game, and honestly, he was striking well with Fiziev when they fought before he got knocked out. He landed some bombs on Fiziev that a lot of people would not be able to take. Herbert, 10-2, he's brand new to the UFC. He's only got 1 fight in the UFC. He fought an old, washed-up Trinaldo, ate a shot to the dome, and that wobbled him and put him away deep in the third after having a spectacular 10-minute performance. We haven't seen this guy tested on the mat. We haven't seen his takedown defense. We don't know if he can hang with someone like Moicano on the floor. And even then, if they're striking, if they're standing, both these guys have a puncher's chance. The shots that Moicano landed on Fiziev would put Herbert away, no questions asked. And on the feet, Herbert, the way he handled someone like Francisco Trinaldo, that's a guy that's made out of iron. That's a guy that doesn't get knocked out. He's not getting finished by anybody. Those are the types of shots that would give Moicano problems. So if this thing stands for 15 minutes, I don't think it's going that far. If they stay on the feet, someone's getting knocked out. If this thing goes to the floor, I don't think Herbert can survive for 15 minutes with Renato Moicano cooking him. My lean on this one is Moicano by submission. I think that's the most likely way this fight ends. And with both them having a puncher's chance and both them having durability issues, I think -150 for the under 2.5 is a steal. I'm on it myself. I'm on it big. I'm looking for violence to kick off the main card. I really like that spot. Welterweight fight, Tim Means taking on Nicolas Dalby here. We've got a total set at 2.5, surprising nobody. Over 2.5 is -200. The under 2.5 is +170. And no, I'm not going for violence. This is the first fight that we've discussed on this entire card that I'm not going to be taking that plus money opportunity. Now, obviously, both these guys have exactly what they need to get that under. They've got the offensive capability. They've got the output. You've got Dalby with the wicked karate style stance. He's explosive when he decides decides to close that range. Tim Means has been knocked out a couple times before, so that's totally possible. Means has got a nasty kicking game, has no problem fighting at that same range. He's got underrated grappling and underrated jiu-jitsu. We've seen Dalby struggle on the floor with people before, so there is opportunity for both these guys to finish. But even though Tim Means has seemed a little bit chinny against some people, he's also not had that problem for quite some time. And facing some of the level of Nicolas Dalby, I don't really know that it's going to be a concern. He fights at range extremely well. He's very defensively sound. And because of that, I think Dalby's going to have a hard time finding the mark on him. I also think Tim might actually use the wrestling in this fight. I think he might go to that ground game. And if he does, Dalby's a guy that doesn't get submitted a whole lot. He did get rocked and, club and subbed his last time out. I don't see that happening here. Tim Means is not really a club and sub style guy. If he jumps on something, then obviously maybe it happens. Both these guys can finish, but they've both been defensively sound. They've both been tough. They've both been durable. I actually think this one makes it to the judges' scorecards, and we get more of a slow-paced technical striking match between two guys that really want to lower the risk in their fight. They probably both just want to get the win and get out of Dodge. So that's kind of what I'm looking here. I'm not paying minus 200 for the over, but that's definitely the way I think the fight plays out. Featherweight fight coming up next. Andre Touchy Fili taking on Daniel Pineda. Clash of two styles here. Daniel Pineda is a glass cannon. He comes out guns blazing in that first round, looks for that finish early, and then we've seen him just fall off horribly. If he can't control his opponents, if he can't get them out of there, rounds 2, he's not the same guy. Round 3, he's even worse. We see Andre Fili on the flip side of this thing get stronger as the fight goes on. He starts a little bit slow, but once you start showing some chinks in the armor, once he starts getting the timing down a little bit, he ramps it up. As you fade, he gets better. And because of that, we've got a real clear opportunity for this thing to get finished, because Daniel Pineda either comes out early and blows the brakes off of Fili, or he's going to make that attempt fail, and then Fili's going to turn the tables on him and get it done. I'm kind of feeling a late finish by Fili. I'm actually considering playing that third round finish by Fili. I think it's 10-1. So that's going to put us right on that spot with 2.5. We've got the over 2.5 at a pick'em price here, minus 110 to either side. I would be leaning to the under, just because obviously there's an opportunity for Pineda to gas sooner, and then he can finish earlier in the fight as well. We know Fili's got some crisp, sharp boxing. We know he punches hard, so this thing could easily get finished in the second round. I'm kind of thinking it makes it to the third round, and then we see Pineda just have nothing left in the tank. So we're getting kind of close to that 2 minutes and 30 seconds there in the third round for this thing to go under, but I do think it does get done before the judges' scorecards. I wouldn't be shocked if Pineda shows a little bit more of an improved gas tank, uses his wrestling, and then Fili isn't quite able to put him away on this one. Don't be surprised if it makes the full distance. I think round 3 is going to get really hairy, though. Next fight up, Bantamweight. We've got maybe the most underrated fight on the card. I would say the most exciting, but I'm stoked on the main event. So, close number 2 here for me. Raoni Barcelos taking on Timur Valiev. Valiev, the guy that everybody outside the UFC claimed was the best fighter at this weight class. Raoni Barcelos, a guy in the UFC that's, in my opinion, title worthy. I think he's a contender. He just can't get the opportunity to fight anybody. No one wants this guy. And why would you? He's vicious and brutal and skilled absolutely everywhere. Timur Valiev has been finished. We've seen him knocked out. It was a bit of a fluky situation. He gassed himself out trying to style in his UFC debut and paid for it. Raoni Barcelos only has one loss to his name. I mean, these guys are both as durable as it gets. The total set at 2.5, over minus 220, under is plus 180. With the skill sets of these guys, I would love to say that the under is the play here, especially getting plus 180. That's a massive price tag trying to get a finish here. But neither of these guys go down. Neither of these guys get finished. Raoni Barcelos took some of the biggest bombs we've seen from Khalid Taha, a guy that is just power incarnate at this weight class. He finishes everybody when he gets the win. He was unable to crack the chin of Raoni Barcelos. Barcelos has been chin checked. He checks out. He's durable, he's tough, he's not giving up. Timur Valiev, he's a grinder. I know he came out and he tried to style with his striking in his UFC debut, but he reminded us the second fight what he really does, and that's slow the pace. He gets in on people, pins them up against the fence, tries to drag them to the floor, Khabib-style chain wrestling, and then if the finish shows up, if he gets a submission or ground and pound, then it's there, great, but if not, he has no problem just grinding away a 15-minute fight. I think the threat of Timur Valiev's takedowns, while Barcelos is not a fish out of water, while he's not going to be afraid of going to the mat with this guy, it will put that little hesitation in his brain. It will slow him down just a tad, so he isn't quite as offensive as he normally would be unless he sees a wide opening. And with Timur Valiev's skill set, that wide open opportunity for a finish on the feet, it's going to be rare. It's going to be hard to come across that kind of a thing. So I think we've got more of a banana peel type of situation here where one of these guys has really got to slip up and give the other guy an opportunity. This is a high-level fight on a low-level card, and generally when you see that fight take a notch up, when you get to a certain level of competition, it's harder and harder and harder to finish your opponent because they're just so good at defending. They're so good at keeping themselves in the fight, and they're so defensively sound. That's what I think this fight is. Both these guys respect each other. Both these guys mind their P's and Q's. Both these guys have a risk-adverse style, trying to keep this fight in the realm where they've got the best opportunity to win, because the person who wins this fight could be in the talks for contenders in their next one or two fights. So there's a lot on the line in this fight, and because of that, I'd be looking over. I really don't want to pay minus 220, especially, like I said, with the offensive output of Raoni Barcelos specifically. I think there's a lot of opportunity for one of these guys to get finished in this fight, but I trust them both to be defensive, and I trust them both to do whatever it takes to win this fight, in which case I think it's going to hit the judges' scorecard. So I'd be looking over in that one, not paying that price tag, though. Heavyweight fight, Tanner Boser taking on OSP, Ovince Preux. This is such a sketchy fight. 2.5 here, minus 150 to the over, plus 130 to the under, and the under makes some sense here to me, right? Ovince Preux, a guy coming off of a knockout loss to Jamal Hill. Before that, he tested the waters at heavyweight. He survived against Ben Rothwell, but he didn't look especially great doing it. He had some power. His power absolutely translates up to heavyweight, so that could be something for Boser to deal with. But Boser, a guy that's coming out with a ton of motivation, needs to save his job here, needs to stay in the UFC. He's on a skid. He's got to right the ship. He hasn't knocked anybody out for a while, and here he is fighting a big, plodding dude that, especially at heavyweight, maybe not the most offensive grappler, right? If OSP gets this fight to the floor, that OSP, the Ovince Preux choke, that is absolutely on the table. He could smother Tanner Boser on the mat, but he could also land that submission, because we've seen Boser doesn't have the best ground game off his back. He's making a quick turnaround, obviously. He hasn't improved in that area since the last time we saw him. But if this primarily is a stand-up fight, OSP has a lot of big winging motions, and I think Tanner Boser, even though he's the naturally bigger guy, I think he's going to have the speed advantage, and we saw that speed kills against OSP in the Jamal Hill fight. He'll put this guy out cold, and I really think OSP is on the decline. So because OSP is going to be kind of submission or bust here in this spot, in my opinion, head kick or bust, I guess, I think Tanner Boser has the opportunity to get a knockout, and with the 2.5 rounds at heavyweight, I could see it going under, getting the plus price tag. That's the way I would be looking. Plus 230 for this thing to finish inside the distance. Boser to remind people why he's valid in the heavyweight division. OSP maybe to get his walking papers or get just a little bit closer to retirement. Or OSP pulls the upset and shows us all exactly why he is stuck around as long as he has. Put that ground game to work, and then use that legendary St. Preux choke that he goes for when it's on the mat. So I think there's opportunities for it to get finished. I'm not touching this one. I'm not betting this one. There's a lot of questions. Very sketchy fight. I'm not going there. Main event time, we've got Ciryl Gane taking on Alexander Volkov. Total here set at 4.5 for the big boys. We're going 4.5. Over 4.5 is minus 120. Under 4.5 is plus 100. And this is so tough because it's a 25-minute fight with the biggest man in the UFC. You got to think the under is the way to go, right? But the way these two guys fight, Ciryl Gane 8-0, extremely technical on the feet, fast, works his jab, stays to the outside, lots of leg kicks. Alexander Volkov, massively experienced in the prime of his life, fights long, rangy, technical striker, good boxing, kickboxing. He's a guy that knows how to play the range game. We saw it in the Derek Lewis fight. If he didn't drop his guard at the very last second of that fight, he wins an easy 15-minute decision where he stayed outside and avoided the bomb of Lewis. Ciryl Gane used that exact same style against Jairzinho Rozenstruik the last time out, went a full 25 minutes for that. So the bookies are expecting a technical striking match for this one, and I kind of agree. I have a hard time seeing either of these guys really just lose their head in this particular spot. They both have finishing capability. They both hit hard enough to put someone away. But I think this is going to be a chess match. I think these guys are going to be respectful of each other's skill sets. And I think they're going to be trying to play and try and get that one up on each other. This one could come crumbling down in the last couple of minutes here of the 4th or the 5th round, because we're talking heavyweights. 25 minutes with heavyweights. These are not stand and wait fighters like Derek Lewis, like Jairzinho Rozenstruik. These are both very active fighters. They'll both look for the counters. They're both going to look for the leg kicks. They're both going to cut angles and try to attack. So it's not going to be quite the sit back and wait approach that we have seen before at heavyweight, which also scares me for the over, because if that's the case, there could be some flurries. There could be some moments where they trade. There'd be some counter opportunities for these quicker heavyweights that strike like lightning when they have the chance to. So as I'm telling you that over 4.5 at -120 is the play, I'm talking myself into the under 4.5 at +100. We haven't seen Ciryl Gane finished. He's 8-0 undefeated. We've never even seen him beaten, so we don't even know what that looks like. Alexander Volkov, he has been knocked out. We've seen him finish that way before. We've seen him defend the takedowns of Curtis Blades and get back up to his feet for a full 25 minutes, so we know he's got 25 minutes of gas, and we know that Ciryl Gane is going to have a hell of a time getting him to the floor or keeping him on the floor if he is able to get it there. So this is going to be a striking match, and we have seen Volkov knocked out. As much as I'm in Volkov's camp, most of you guys know I've already got a big bet on Alexander Volkov here on this Saturday. But I think he could be the guy to find the chin of Ciryl Gane. Ciryl Gane's not fought a heavyweight athlete that's been anywhere near his caliber freak athlete. Volkov's that guy. Volkov's the guy that can match him stylistically speaking. He can match his height. He can match his reach, the sheer physicality. This is his first real big test. And the way Volkov has been looking lately, if there's anybody that's going to knock out Gane besides the champion Francis Ngannou, I think Volkov would be the guy to do it. So yeah, I think there's an opportunity for both guys to be finished here. Let's not forget the leg attacks. Ciryl Gane, Volkov both use those regularly, and with these big old boys, someone's knee could get blown out, so there's the opportunity for like a TKO or a doctor stoppage here as well. I think you got to go under 4.5 at +100. I've got this crazy feeling that one of these guys is going to win by decision. I think it's going to be technical, but at the same time, with all the factors involved and how big and strong these guys are, you probably got to take the even money on the under 4.5. I am not playing this total. If my bouncing back and forth on it makes you wonder whether or not I'm putting it in my pocket, I'm not. I am not betting this total, so take that advice with a grain of salt. That's the total takedown, folks. This is a really exciting card. It's super low level on the prelims, and then the main card starts a little bit low level, and then it levels up drastically as it gets up to the top. So this one should be really fun. I see a lot of action, a lot of finishes early, and then as we get to the main portion of this card, I think it's going to be very technical, very exciting, with high stakes. It's a good card. For being a dumpster fire, it's a really damn good card. So good luck on all of your degenerate action. I'm looking forward to it. I've got a lot on the line this week, so send me your energy. Let's crush this card. Let's stay hot. Put some more W's in our pockets. Let's roll. Good luck. We'll see you Saturday.